Have you heard of this phenomenon in business called cracking? Let me ask you something. Have you ever seen someone show up every day, sit at their desk, smile in meetings, hit the minimum requirements? Before I say anything else, everything I'm about to say, you already know. Otherwise, you would not be here. I'm not here to tell you something new. I'm here to remind you of what you already feel. And here's what you feel. Something is happening inside organizations. It's subtle, it's quiet, it's expensive, and it's called cracking. Not quitting, not resigning, not walking out the door, but something breaking on the inside. And let me ask you, how dangerous is a company where people are present but no longer hungry? But something is missing. Have you ever felt it in your organization? It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It doesn't make headlines, but it is expensive. It's called cracking, and it's costing companies millions.
I look at you, I say, you have greatness within you. You have the ability to do more than you can ever begin to imagine. No one could have convinced me that I would be doing what I'm doing right now. You know, the easiest thing I do every year is go into a sales organization and dramatically increase their sales, or go into a prison and enable prisoners to see themselves differently and teach them the methods and techniques of how to plug into the system, or motivate young people to begin to see how they can have a vision of themselves in the future and fit. That's the easiest thing I do, or train a speaker to help them to leverage their experience as a speaker and say, look, speaking is a projection of who you are, not who you think you ought to be, and come with power from a platform. That's the easiest thing I've ever done. Let me share with you the most difficult thing I've ever done. The most difficult thing I've ever done was to believe that I can do what I'm now doing. No one could have convinced me, just given my circumstances. I earn millions of dollars every year. No one could have convinced me. If both my parents came up here right now, I would not know either one. No one could have convinced me, being labeled educable, mental retarded, born in an abandoned building on the floor in Liberty City, poor section of Miami, Florida, failing twice in school, no college training, never worked for a major corporation. I did not know I can do what I'm doing right now. I'll never forget Mike Williams, my mentor. I think a lot of people fail in life because of the fact that they need some mentoring, they need some coaching. See, you can't see the picture when you're in the frame. And here's something I realized. Sometimes you have to believe in somebody's belief in you until your belief kicks in. I kept holding on to my mother saying, you're special, Leslie, when they said you're educable, mentally retarded. Mama didn't know what that meant. She only had a third-grade education. So she said, he'll be all right, he'll be fine. But she said, you're special, baby. You are special. And they kept saying that over and over again. Faith comes by hearing and hearing and hearing. As you think about your goals and your dream, it's possible together. See, most people never achieve their goals because most people suffer from possibility blindness. They look around trying to think about the things that they don't have. Robert Roots, young man who wrote a book about success principles of the Three Little Pigs, he said, it's not what you don't have, is what you think you need that keeps you from being successful.
Preventing the crack. How to keep your top talent from breaking. I was sitting across from a vice president at a Fortune 500 company. 6-figure salary, corner office, perfect resume. And when I leaned forward and asked him, how are you really? His eyes filled with tears. He said, I don't know who I am anymore. Now, let me ask you something. How does a high performer, someone at the top of their game, get to that point? How does a leader with resources, power, influence, you lose himself? It doesn't happen overnight. It happens slowly, one compromise at a time, one sleepless quarter at a time, one I'll deal with my health later at a time, one just push through at a time, until one day, the outside success no longer matches the inside condition. And here's the truth most companies don't want to face. People don't quit companies first. They quit themselves first. And when a person cracks internally, it shows up externally. Productivity drops. Innovation shrinks. Collaboration suffers. Energy declines. You don't lose talent because they aren't capable. You lose talent because they are disconnected. disconnected from purpose, disconnected from growth, disconnected from meanings. And I want to talk to you about preventing that crack, because high performers don't burn out from work. They burn out from misalignment. So let me ask you this. When was the last time someone in your organization asked your leaders, who are you becoming here?
It's not what you don't have. See, I was focused on what I didn't have. Don't have a college degree, don't have any credentials, never worked for a major corporation. I was focused on the negative things. It said negative things are the things that you see when you're not focused on your goal. What do you come with? What is it that you have within you that you showed up to bring? Hey, Les, you don't know, but my dream is a long shot. A friend of mine, Dexter Yeager, said when the dream is big enough, the odds don't matter. I'm reminded of a great man when I was reading Time magazine talking about some of the great minds of the last century. They didn't mention his name, Dr. Howard Thurman, one of the mentors of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and also an advisor to Mahatma Gandhi and Albert Schweitzer. And he said, the ideal situation for a man or woman to die is to have family members standing around their bed praying with them as they cross over. But imagine, if you will, being on your deathbed and standing around your bed, the dreams given to you by life, the ideas that you never acted on, the talents, the gifts, the abilities that you never used. And there they are, standing around your bed, looking at you with large, angry eyes, saying, we came to you, and only you could have given us life. And now we must die with you forever. And the question is, if you died this very moment, what will die?
Titles don't sustain people. Growth does. If the only growth path in your organization is compensation or status, you are building externally successful and internally fragile leaders. And fragile leadership is expensive. $8 trillion expensive. Now, I want you to consider this. What if engagement wasn't about perks? What if it wasn't about ping pong tables or flexible Fridays? What if engagement was about helping people reconnect to why they do what they do? Because when someone knows why they are there, they endure pressure differently. They innovate differently. They lead differently. When someone feels seen, developed, and aligned, they don't just work, they contribute. And contribution is what moves companies forward. Let me ask you, what would happen to your culture if your top 25% of leaders were deeply aligned internally? What would happen to productivity if people felt psychologically safe to stretch? What would happen to innovation if people weren't operating from quiet depletion? See, when I work with organizations, I don't just talk motivation. I help leaders rebuild internal clarity. I help teams reconnect to purpose. I help organizations strengthen the core so pressure doesn't produce fracture. It produces growth, because pressure is not the problem. Disconnection is. And when you eliminate disconnection, you reduce disengagement, you increase retention, you protect performance, and you prevent the crack. The question isn't whether your organization has pressure. Every organization does. The question is, are your people strong enough internally to handle it? Because if they are not, it's not a matter of if they break. It's a matter of when. It's possible to build an organization that performs and thrives. It's necessary if you want sustainable excellence. And it starts at the top. Now, the real question is, are you willing to invest in the human being behind the title?
Do you hear me? Now, unlike Regis Philbin, when his shows were canceled, he kept going, he kept going, and he got other shows. I bet you somebody gave him a push. Somebody said, hey, you need a lift? I didn't even make that an option for me. I got off the highway, I went back to my comfort zone, and I parked. The show failed, and I identified myself as a failure. One day, just flipping the channels, looking at PBS, and saw Wayne Dyer, my friend Wayne Dyer. We're both in our 60s. Wayne is still doing it. I said, hey, I've got some more stuff in me. I've got another PBS special in me. I've got some other ideas. You know, Oprah and Phil, they're doing my stuff. Maybe I need to come back out here. And I went back and started calling PBS and different people. They said, Les, what happened to you? I said, I didn't know whether or not anybody would be interested in me because the show was canceled. No, you had some good ideas. And when they said, yeah, we would love to do a show with you, I went into the studio and people that worked with 10 years ago, they were still there. And I said, guys, you know, do you guys still have it? I said, we have it. Do you have it? I said, I think so. And I did the show, and I wasn't as good as I was 10 years ago. It's taking me some time to get my strength back, to find my power, to get my confidence back. But at least I'm back out there in the game, determined to dry empty. So I say to you, see, I only attract millionaires or millionaires in training. You have something special. You have greatness within you. And the only reason you're here, you are my assignment. You can feel me. Some of you feel me right here in your heart of hearts. And my goal is to get past your mind and into your heart. So it's necessary that you have the mindset that I can do this.
I was sitting in a room with a senior executive at a major corporation, 6-figure salary, corner office, 30 years in the company. From the outside, model employee. From the inside, he was cracking. He looked at me and said, Les, I'm tired. I still show up. I still perform, but I don't feel anything anymore. Now listen to what he did not say. He didn't say, I want to quit. He didn't say, I hate my company. He said, I don't feel connected to what I'm doing anymore. That's cracking. The body is present, but the hunger is gone. So I asked him a question I've asked thousands of people over the years. When was the last time someone here asked you why you still care? He paused. And then he laughed, not because it was funny, but because no one had. For years, he had been measured by performance, but never reconnected to purpose, measured by output, but never asked about ownership. So we did something simple. I had him write down, why did you say yes to this company in the first place? Why did you care back then? Who were you trying to become? He sat there for a long time, and then he said something I will never forget. I wanted to build something that would outlast me. Now here's what had happened. Over time, no one had revisited his commitment. No one had acknowledged his contribution in a meaningful way. No one had asked him if he was still aligned. So hunger faded quietly. But once we reconnected him to identity, everything changed. He went back to his team and did something radical. He didn't start with metrics. He started with a question. Why are you here? And are you still committed? And do you know what happened? Silence, real silence. But then one by one, people began to speak, not about KPIs, about meaning, not about tasks, about impact. That team went from being one of the lowest performing units in the division to one of the most innovative, not because they hired new talent, but because they reactivated commitment. See, cracking doesn't happen because people are weak. It happens because no one protects the hunger. But commitment returns when people feel seen, when they feel heard, when they are reminded that they matter. And here's the truth. Most organizations don't need new strategy. They need renewed conviction. And conviction doesn't come from pressure. It comes from connection. You can't force hunger, but you can reignite it. And when you do, you don't just change performance, you change culture. Let me leave you with this. If anything I said today resonated with you, if you've seen the signs of cracking in your organization, if you felt the quiet disengagement, don't ignore it. Investigate it. Because pressure is not the enemy. Disconnection is. And if you strengthen the human being behind the title, you protect the performance. So here's what I want you to do. Take out your phone. Text the word cracking to 209-703-5072. We've created a brief executive clarity assessment. It will help you identify where alignment is strong, and where fracture may be forming. No hype, no fluff, just insight.